All right, so welcome. This is a presentation on our Voix du Monde series, which is brand new, just released this year. So we're going to be taking a look at our levels 1 and 2 of this curriculum. So looking at it, you during this presentation are going to learn about who this series was made for, like what target students you should be working with, how we organize our typical chapters, some of the most basic resources that will get you through this curriculum, some of my favorite resources, and then some ideas on how you could pace this curriculum to use it in your classroom. So first of all, looking at the audience, for Voix du Monde, the level 1, this would be best for your beginning French students, usually in grades 8 through 10. If you wanted to start it in a junior high or middle school setting, you could, or just your typical French 1 in high school. And with this level, you'd be looking to get them to novice mid for sure, and then working towards novice high proficiency. When you get into the second year curriculum, that would be for your second year French students that have already done a first year, usually grades 9 through 11. And when they're done with this, they would be at a very solid novice high proficiency. So we organize our chapters, starting out with your grammar and vocab explanations, some presentations, then you jump into some activities to practice all of that grammar and vocabulary. You get some authentic resources. It's extra practice with the grammar and vocab, but using it in a very contextualized way that's more real world. You also have some cultural materials to learn about the focus countries. You have interpersonal activities to get the students speaking with both recordings on the actual Voces digital platform, as well as with each other. You have a story, which takes all of the information from the chapter and presents it in a very interesting plot. And then you have your assessments at the very end. So looking at a chapter, breaking it down, you first start out with your grammar and vocab pages, which are just standalone pages like this, and a section of videos and presentations. And these are all to introduce the content to your students. After that, you jump into some activities and authentic resources. And those are ways for you to practice those key concepts and reinforce them. And each chapter has like around 20, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but like it's usually around 5 activities per grammar page or vocab page. Then you jump into being able to explore the countries and their culture. So you've got a travel section, you've got a cultural exploration, which focuses on like the target countries. And then every chapter has an exploration of European France itself as well. You also have that at the very beginning of the chapter, like to just kind of open students' minds up to that country. So you can look at that as well. After the exploration of the country, you have a bunch of like just extra activities to make things a little more fun. You have to build your students' interpersonal skills and build some class culture. You've got an interview video. You also have some chat activities, let's chat, and some kinesthetic activities. You can also help your students hone their reading skills with the story. So there's one story per chapter and some leveled readings. These are embedded readings. There are 2 per chapter, and it takes you through 3 different levels. So you can start with something very simple to read and work their way up to a more difficult reading. And then after that, you get into your wrapping up the chapter with some review and some assessment. So you've got your quizzes, your work summary, your vocab list, and then 2 assessments, either a regular test or your integrated performance assessment. So looking at your key resources, like the things that just make up the backbone of this curriculum, if you were to teach nothing else but these, this would get you through your curriculum very well. You have your grammar and vocab pages, the videos and presentations, your practice activities, and then your assessments. So here's an example of a vocabulary page. And I just wanted to point out that everything is really well organized. The vocabulary is broken up into more easily digestible chunks so that you can not overwhelm your students with a whole bunch of vocabulary. And every word has native speaker audio. So you can see that little icon right here. If your students click on that, they'll hear what the word is pronounced like. I liked to use those like on my projector in the classroom for the whole class to hear, because students always invariably will repeat the words without even being prompted to do so, just because they find it interesting. You also have grammar pages. And again, I just wanted to point out, like, they're very well organized. They're written in a way for students to understand. And these are right at the beginning of the chapter. So looking at the excerpt of the menu here, you can see there's the chapter, and then you've got your grammar and vocab pages. And this is the vocabulary or grammar page that I'm looking at right here that's kind of highlighted a little bit. We have video pages, and this is from our first year curriculum. This is a French with Mr. Innes video. And so you have your video that walks them through the topic that you're working through. And then you've got some practice activities underneath of it. So it's very good at reinforcing what students have seen. And the videos are really fun, which we're going to see in a few minutes. This is a presentation page. So the presentations are meant to be done together as a class, and it shows the language being used in context, like a little mini conversation, and you just project those, show that how that's done. And then every presentation also has some way, like a prompt for your students to use the language themselves, modeling it off of what they've seen in the presentation. And then this is just one example of an activity page. Like I mentioned before, like each grammar and vocabulary section has 5-ish, sometimes more, sometimes less activity pages that go along with them. So it's like up to 20, sometimes 24 activity pages. So lots of ways for your students to practice the vocabulary and grammar that they've learned. And then this is an example of the integrated performance assessment. This is an interpretive reading page. And I just wanted to point out that when you're doing an IPA, every page has a can-do statement so the students know what it is that they're being assessed on. It has a situation to kind of set it up as a real world activity, like you could be doing this in your real life, and then some instructions to help students understand what they're doing. And then our IPAs with the interpretive part, they always have some sort of an authentic resource. With this one, you can see that there's a menu from Morocco. If it's an interpersonal one, there's like some prompts to respond to, so they'll listen to the prompts and have to respond to it. But just a really great way for students to see how they can take the French that they're learning and use it in a real context, kind of like a real life situation. So getting into some of my favorite resources, I really love the French with Mr. Innes videos. He's also in our introductory French title. So if you want to check that out, his videos are just really fun. He does such a great job of explaining concepts and making the videos interesting to watch. I also love the kinesthetic activities, and I'll show you an example of one of those. And I love that in this title, we have, even though each chapter focuses on a different country, we still give attention to the European France itself by going through this section of just exploring France by itself. So here's an example of a French with Mr. Innes video. This is a screenshot. And so he uses really he's got this zany, fun personality that I think draws students into his videos. So you can see he's really expressive. He uses great examples to put the language into a context. So those are every chapter in Voix du Monde level 1 has a French with Mr. Innes video. And I just love them. They're so fun to work him through. We also have kinesthetic activities. This is an example of dice conjugations. So this is a great way every chapter for you to use these. Your students are getting a little bit antsy. They, sometimes they have those days where something's going on in the school and they just need to not be working, but still doing things. So it's a fun way to get your students off of their devices, still using the language, but doing something that just kind of breaks up your typical routine. So we've got, for example, some dice conjugations where your students, like your tactile students, will love that. They've got dice in their hands, they're rolling the dice, but they're also practicing the language at the same time. And here's an example of our just focusing on France instead of the focus country of each chapter. So these ones are great. The format of it changes a lot. Like this one's meant to be a slideshow. So you would go through these slides and talk through them with your students, and then there are some activities that follow it up. So pacing this, there are different ways that you could do it. If you want to go at a more accelerated pace and maybe just stick to the bare bones, like the grammar vocab pages, the activities, the authentic resources in your assessments, you could definitely get through this in 1 year. If you wanted to milk this curriculum and get everything out of it, you could definitely divide it up between years and go at a slower pace. You know your students best. You know what your district's goals are for your program. So whatever really works best for you. We also have a pacing guide in the Voces Library, and I'm actually going to grab that link and give that to you right now. I only have right now the, and actually I need to leave here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up my chat. Okay, so there is for level 1, and level 2's pacing guide will be coming soon, but level 2 actually is only right now up to level 5, or sorry, chapter 5 is live right now, but that one will be coming very soon. And let's see. So that'll be coming soon. And that is Voix du Monde. So if you have any questions, you can add it to our survey and I will get you that link as well. I apologize. It's like every day is my first day on Zoom because I don't use it that often. So here we go. All right, so there is your survey. If you have any questions about the presentation, go ahead and add those in there. And we'll have our Q&A at 1 o'clock today. If you want to contact me, you can at melissaf@vocesdigital.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So again, thank you for coming to this presentation, and I hope that you enjoy teaching with Voix du Monde this year.